So, hello and welcome to our next episode of the Online Entrepreneur Academy podcast. And it's my huge pleasure to welcome James Fanale as my guest today. So, James, I'm going to hand over to you and call you Jim, of course. Introduce yourself to my audience of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, people just starting out, please.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome to be here. Yeah, my name's James or Jim Fanale. I'm a co-founder of a company called Digital Mentors, where we help people kind of transform their expertise and their knowledge into profitable online businesses. We focus a lot on digital mentorship, creating coaching programs, creating courses, and things like that. And it has been an absolute blast to work with people who are really passionate about what they do. And watching them understand that they can get paid for that knowledge, they can get paid for that passion. So it's been a great journey so far.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about, and I'm part of your community, and it's an amazing place to be. But Jim, did you start off? You didn't start off. What was your starting point in your career? Because we were talking about people changing and using their skills. So where did you start? Take us back a bit.
Yeah, sure. Oh God, how far back? Let's see. Out of college, Brian and I, my brother, who is also a co-founder of Digital Mentors, we were musicians out of college, and we did it for about 10 years, and we had a blast doing it. And our first dip into the marketing area would have been just getting people to our shows. So we actually cut our teeth trying to build websites and trying to build marketing to get people to our shows. And then me personally, I started working in DC. I worked for NASA for a little bit. I say that with I should say quotes because I was in the basement working on their like websites and
You were
stuff.
there.
It's yeah, it's a cool resume thing. And then I went to a PR company. That's where I started learning a lot more about marketing. And I remember the moment where I decided I cannot do this anymore. I can't work at the 9 to 5. I was waking up at like 4 a.m. to take the train into DC. I never saw the sun. And I remember I worked with two other designers. They were awesome, great guys. But the woman that I was a direct report to was sitting to the right of me. And I had just finished this massive project. I was super proud of myself, but man, I was burning the candle at both ends. And I remember the moment I looked over and she was sleeping in the middle of the day. She was sleeping at her desk. And that was like, it just, I was thinking about going out on my own, doing my own thing, and I just needed that kick in the ass, like that. There's almost everyone has that one moment that's like, that's it. I can't take it anymore. Like the pleasure pain thing, right? Like how much pain am I willing to endure before I actually make a change? And for some reason, that was it for me. And I quit the next day and went out on my own doing my own personal web design development marketing agency, and I was doing really well for about a year. And that's when I joined forces with my brother and a couple of other guys to create a company called My Lead System Pro, which eventually became Digital Mentors. So that was kind of my journey. A lot of what I've learned has just been boots on the ground and experience. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been an interesting journey for sure.
For sure. And as I say, the rest is history from that moment. Yes.
Right.
So light bulb.
Exactly.
That's interesting
Never
because,
went back.
sorry?
Never went back.
No, 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 absolutely not. And a lot of my audience are teachers and educators, so I think that will resonate really well. And they, as you were saying, love what they're doing, but how long can you work such long hours and not have any time for yourself and see the sunshine, as you said?
Yeah, I will say it's I have so much respect for that industry, for the people that are doing that, and they are criminally underpaid, and criminally overworked, and criminally underappreciated. So I love that you're providing this type of environment for them to kind of see that there might be something that they can do to leverage everything that they know and everything that they've learned throughout their time, giving so much to kids, giving so much to the teaching. Um, it's great that you have this kind of platform to be able to show people that there are other ways to um, you know capitalize on everything that they've done.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And also, I think a lot of people, not everybody wants to replace their day job, do they? Just want
No,
to
not at all.
add another dimension or that extra income, frankly, in our
Mhm.
in our modern world, or
Yeah,
simply use their skills in a complementary, better way.
for
Yeah,
sure.
opportunity. So, marketing. You touched on marketing, and an interesting question came to my mind because we all digital is the thing, quite rightly these days, but Do you also still look back at, I mean, maybe it's easier in the UK, but my question is there still a place for offline marketing and how does that fit in? Or does it fit into a digital world, someone who's mainly online?
Yeah, again, when I was working at the PR firm, all of our stuff was print. I mean, this was a long time ago. We were just starting to build websites for clients and things like that. Most of our stuff was print. And I think that for a solopreneur, for someone that is
Mm.
probably by themselves, doesn't have a team yet, um, print's probably out of the question only because of the cost, right? The cost, the overhead, the ad buys, the prints, everything like that. The ability these days with what we have, it's one of the greatest times ever to be alive if you're trying to be a digital solopreneur because the overhead, the cost, the entry fee to get in to be able to do something on your own is so low. Like you could get started with just a couple $100 for some software, pay a couple $100 for some ads, and you're on your way. And I think it's amazing. And I do think that there's always going to be a place for print, for old school style marketing. And I just think that right now it's going to be something that you grow into. Print ads are very potent. I think that they work really, really well if you do it the right way. And for most of us, you know, when we're first getting started, a lot of us are testing. We're testing the waters. We're checking to see if this is something that we love, something that we can actually do. And the low barrier of entry is something that we've never seen like this before. It's just so easy to get started. So, yeah, I mean, I love the old school print stuff. I love designing it. I love laying it out. I love printing. I love all the old school ad buys. And I just, for these days, it's just something that we probably put on the back burner until we're ready for something like that.
Yeah, that makes absolutely huge sense, which neatly draws me to my next question. So someone starting out, a solopreneur, they've maybe played a little bit around with social media, but is there one thing to do first, given that they've probably got a little bit of social media up there?
Yeah. So, one of the frameworks that we've taught for God since 2008 is we shortened it to BES, build, engage, sell, and it's the three activities that you need to be taking daily to build a business. And one of the most important aspects of that is the build, right? Long gone are the days of field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. It's just not going to happen anymore. Like you could have the most amazing coaching program or course in the world, but if you don't have eyes on it, it's
Yeah.
not changing anyone's lives, right? So I would think that the most important thing you could do right now is number one, getting crystal clear on your ideal client, on your audience, niching down, figuring out who it is that you really want to serve, who you can serve, who fits that mold, whose life you can transform with what you know, and
Mm.
then figuring out how you can get those eyes on you. And these days with social media, with Instagram, it has never been easier. And yet more difficult to do that, right? Because it's really noisy out there. And a lot of people, their biggest mistake is that they are concerned or they fear niching down because they're going to
Mm.
alienate all these other customers that they could potentially have. But it's just not the case. And we've always seen with all of our clients, the more you niche down, the more you speak to a specific person and get some great content, get some great solutions out there for them, that's when you start really moving the ball forward. So I think that these days, software is a dime a dozen. Like software is so inexpensive these days to run a business. And there's all these all-in-one platforms. We use an all-in-one platform, and it's absolutely amazing. But for someone getting started, like think about what you really need. You need people to talk to about what you offer, and you
Mhm.
need a way to get money. That's it. Like that could be it. You could be going on Instagram, starting conversations with people, putting great content out on Instagram, for example, getting them into your DMs, getting them to book a call, and then selling them on your platform, on your program. And you can do this without almost any overhead and without having anything pretty much ready, right? I mean, because if you're just selling a coaching program, a way that you can transform someone's life because of your interactions with them, you don't need to spend 6 months creating something. You can start testing the waters right now with what you have available.
Yeah, this is so true. And no, I'm as guilty as the next person of overcomplicating it, trying to do too many things at once
Yeah.
and stopping
Yeah.
it and
I get
starting.
that. It's one of the things that we focus on at Digital Mentors is how can we simplify everything that we want to do? What is the fastest way to get an ROI? What's the fastest way to bring people in? And we harp on something called the MVP, the minimum viable product. What is the minimum viable product that you can put out in the world to start marketing, start the branding, start the marketing section of it fast rather than spending those 6 months building something, right?
Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
like to try to get people to build their businesses like software companies do, right? I have an iPhone here, it's the iPhone 14 or whatever. And they didn't wait till they had the iPhone 14 ready to launch it, right? It was the iPhone 1, and then they kept making iterations. They kept making it better and better and better. And that's what we want people to do when they start a digital mentor business. Because if you spend a ton of time just focusing on the product, just focusing on what you're delivering before you bring it to market, before you test, there's no guarantee that what you're creating is going to be of value, is going to be wanted. So if you spend 6 months and then you try to start bringing people to what
Mhm.
you're offering, and then you find out that it's crickets, you struggle to find the right audience, you struggle to sell this thing, then you've just wasted 6 months building that rather than just getting something out there as quick as possible, your MVP, and start testing the market immediately.
Yeah, such really good advice. And I, as you're talking, thinking I've had lots of things that are just simply Google Docs and the information's there, it's solid. I'm not worried about the pretty pictures if the information is solid. Not for someone who's, starting up, for sure. If it's a branded company, something totally different. Which brings me to funnels. Now, when I first started investigating how to do my business, I had no idea what a funnel was. I was thinking kitchen equipment. So to the uninformed, can you give us a lowdown? Because I love the way you explain things. It's so straightforward, so easy to understand. What's a funnel?
Yeah, a funnel is simply your customer journey. A funnel is, our old school way of thinking, and I wish it wasn't like this, but people always just think of a funnel as a few pages on the web that bring people from A to B. But
Mm,
we really need to expand our thoughts on what we mean by the word funnel. Like a funnel starts with your content. A funnel starts with what you're putting out there. And a funnel is your customer journey throughout all of the stages of that journey to get them from point A to point B, where they're ultimately buying from you and you're changing their life, right?
mhm.
So I like to think of funnels well beyond, the typical capture page, thank you page, opt in for this, and then bring them down, because then it doesn't give, if we think about it that way, it doesn't give the credence that the very top of the funnel really deserves, which is putting great content out there, getting eyes on what you're doing, and then bringing them into those pages, because that is really, really one of the most important parts. Because all the stuff on the back end, right? Like your opt in page, your sales page, all of that stuff can be tweaked, can be improved, all of that can be done. But if you don't have anyone going through that,
Yeah.
there's nothing to test, right? We don't have any numbers that we can tweak and improve and test upon without putting enough work at the very top of the funnel, which is getting people in. And these days, I mean, with our harping on simplicity, what I was kind of talking about before, what do you really need in your funnel to
Mm,
make some money, get people to actually buy from you? What do you really need? You need people to talk to, ideally from your social. We can leverage social to get people into your DMs. You can get a calendar, like a booking calendar, to make your life easier. Just say, hey, book a call with me. And then you need a way to accept money. Like that is the most basic, simple funnel that you can start putting out there right now. And we have many, many people that are making a lot of money just with that as their entire funnel, right? And then we can start adding all the bells and whistles, all the extra pages, the upsells, the downsells, all the different sales pages and things like that. We can do all that as we continue to grow.
yeah, absolutely. And this will be music to the ears of people who are thinking, well, I want to start, but it sounds so complex. And
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to be, basically, does
No,
it?
I get that. Tech has been something that I've trained on for like 15 years, and it's I love it, and I love getting into the software. I love figuring out what we can build, how to automate things and things like that. But it's just, you know, people come into these softwares and they see all of these things that you can do, and it immediately becomes overwhelming because the
Yeah.
thought, and it's natural, like the thought when you get in there is, if it's here, then I probably have to use it, right? There's probably a reason why it's here. I have to put it into my business. And we lose a lot of people with that because they think that it has to be complex. They think that it has to be difficult because of all these things that you can do, And I think one of the hard, all of my years teaching tech, the one phrase that I hate more than anything in the world, and Susan, you've been on my trainings with
I'm
this.
sure I do. Don't
I
test
hate
it.
when I hear people say I'm not techie, because I don't care. You don't have to be techie. And whenever we do our trainings, whenever we do our workshops, I always make sure people write on a sticky note or something that I am a
Yeah.
tech wizard. Because when people come into software, they start working on tech and they have this thought in the back of their mind that they're not techie,
Mm,
everything's confusing, right?
yeah.
If you go into something like that thinking it's going to be hard, thinking it's going to be difficult, thinking that it's not for you, then every little speed bump you hit is could be the one that just throws you off and you're like, I'm done. I'm
And
done.
it's
But if you go
affirmation
in
of
just with an open mind and thinking like, hey, you know what? I can figure this out. And that is what we do as entrepreneurs or people starting a side hustles, people starting your own business. You figure shit, excuse me, you figure stuff out, right? That's
yeah.
that's what we do. And like we said before, it just doesn't have to be complicated these days. There's so many different avenues you could go down that are almost zero tech.
Yeah, absolutely. And to use a metaphor, it's a bit like the library I'm sitting in front of. There are a lot of books there, but I might only need to read one. I don't have to go
That's a
through the whole lot.
that's a
Yeah,
very good meta. Yes, I get that.
we'll
Get that.
keep that one. Yeah, and for the reference, I did have that sticky note on my computer for a long time. And folks, it fell off. I'll have to write it again. No, I
I
got the
love
message, and it's an important message, isn't it? And guys, if you're listening or watching this video, remember everything James is referring to will be in the show notes below. So check those out because it's really important to start in a place that's going to help you. And the software that you guys have got is amazing, and the support. So tell me a little bit more about that, because I'm sitting here in the UK, you're in the States, but I've not seen anything comparable in the marketplace. There's certain places you can build your funnel, but you have to message a robot and the robot doesn't answer you and you just tear your hair out and give up. Familiar scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. One of the decisions that we made very early on when we were starting Digital Mentors was coming from a place of the idea that, the software is a great tool, but software you can find anywhere these days. There's so they seem to pop up every other week, right? There's some new software out there that can help you build your business. And yet people still fail when they buy the next big shiny software bundle, right? Whatever it is that offer is. And what we always felt was really, really missing was the mentorship side of everything, right? That was the actual touch points that you get with someone that knows what they're doing, like the ability to, when you're creating your offer, when you're trying to figure out your ideal client, when you're trying to figure out your messaging, which is absolutely critical. And then when you get into software and you're trying to figure out how to create some of these pages and automations and things like that, where can you go to get answers as quickly as possible so you're not having to learn so much stuff right up front, where you can communicate with someone that may have a little bit more experience than you, may have been there before, and can help you along the way. And we felt that that was really lacking, and that's where
I'd
we
agree.
focused on, right? That's why we call ourselves digital mentors. That's twofold. We wholeheartedly believe that we can be digital mentors to anyone that wants to start a business, but we also create digital mentors. We create people that want to mentor other people, that want to coach other people, that want to create products and resources and services that can transform lives, right? And we just think it's more than just selling a software or selling a product. It's those touch points that really get people across the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is so unique. And I've not seen anything like it. And there's a lot out there, as you say, but there's nothing that offers the sort of service. And as true educators, there's no stupid question, there's no silly question, which I know is appreciated, because until you know the answer, you don't know, do you?
No, we've all been there before,
Yeah.
like the questions that we hear that some people say are stupid questions are the questions we had 15 years ago, like it's just, that's the idea of mentorship. I had a post the other day and someone commented on it. I believe it was the old adage, those who can do and those who can't teach.
Yes,
And
I've seen that
I
one.
I like I got a little boiled over on that one. I was getting really
Thank
upset
you.
because I was like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Those who can do, those who can't learn and then teach. Like those, it doesn't make sense. Those who can, they do, and then they teach. That's the whole purpose of mentorship, of learning, of all of that. It doesn't make any sense that people could possibly believe that. That's the whole point of digital mentorship, is that you've learned something, you've been through something, you've had an experience that you can now help someone else get through that experience and maybe make a little money along the way.
Yeah, hopefully, absolutely. No, very much so. And the community is quite, and it's quite an international community, isn't it? I've seen people from all over the world
Yeah,
in.
yeah. Again, one of the things that is possible these days is the ability to transform lives all over the world. Not just us, but people that we bring in. You know, they have multinational companies or clients and customers and things like that. And it's like I said before, it's never been this exciting to be a digital mentor or, you know, be able to start something these days.
It's true. It's really exciting, and
Hmm.
also very practical. Again, looking at this, the solo entrepreneur, or the teacher, the coach who wants to do something a little bit extra, and maybe it will become full time one day. But it is so possible, and it is so necessary, because
Hmm.
when I was growing up, it was a one salary household, and then now it's a two salary household. In some cases, that doesn't even work out, even if people have got those two salaries.
Hmm.
I want to move on to AI. So, how is it? I've written down a question here and I'm going to read it to you. How is AI impacting the way we launch new ideas to our audience? Or should it, shouldn't it? How?
Uh, yeah, speed, just speed. For me, you know, AI is a very, very powerful tool that can help you do so much. You know, we leverage AI at the very beginning of our trainings when we bring people in. It's super helpful to really dive into your ideal client, your ideal audience. It's amazing at doing research. It's amazing at coming up with ideas, coming up with content ideas. And one thing that we know that AI will never replace is the value that you bring to AI,
Mm,
like the value that you bring to the marketplace. You know, mentorship is never going to be replaced as everything else. You know, one of the things that I love about AI is I've never been a great copywriter. It's something that I've never really focused on. My brother is an amazing copywriter. It's something that he spent years doing and diving into. And AI has has kind of opened the gates for people that say I can't write copy, right?
mm,
Because AI is amazing at writing copy. But I would say with all of everything that's possible with AI, we just have to be careful because these days, at least for me, like I can spot an AI written
yeah.
paragraph from a mile away, right? And what we have to be careful of is allowing AI to kind of take the reins, right? And to kind of steer the car without us doing any of our own critical thinking and understanding and diving in is like, is AI right? Because AI lies a lot. AI may flat out make stuff up, right? And we we just have to be careful with how much we rely on AI. It's an amazing tool to have in your belt. We use it every single day,
Mm,
but it's not something that's just going to take over and run your business for you, if that
mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does make huge sense, because I think back to the history lessons and the Industrial Revolution. Those machines really helped people, but you still needed the input from the people, the
Exactly.
humans.
That's
So
that's really well put because AI is only as good as what you give it, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
we focus a lot of training on how to interact with AI, how to interact with ChatGPT, you know, what makes a great prompt, what makes a great, you know, a great input to get an actual output that you can then use. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, 100%. And you'll laugh because I'm always saying, when I'm talking to GPT, I'm always saying, can you give me an English version? Because it comes out with, and it's just not my voice, to your point. It's not me.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
It comes back with high chaps. And I'm thinking, no, not quite. But on a funny note, yes, the tool is only as good as the way we use it, and the input, as
Mm.
always. So, common pitfalls, mistakes, and we have sort of covered some of them, what you said already, thank you. But that common mistakes that people make when they're starting out, and there are so many, but they're not necessarily ones that should stop us. So what would you say were the things to avoid? Hopefully
Yeah,
it's a short
sure.
list.
So we've covered a couple, but I would say that the most important is the planning phase. You know, we have a 9-step framework, and the first 3 steps that we bring people through are the planning phase. We call it the planning phase.
Yeah,
And the planning phase is so important, and it's where most people getting started, they ignore that phase. So this is like figuring out your ideal client, right? To a
yeah,
T, like a pinpointing your ideal client and figuring out their wants, their needs, their dreams, their desires, doing all of that research, figuring out what you can sell that they want, that they would want to buy, right? Figuring out what you're good at What do you want to teach? What do you want to provide to the marketplace? And most importantly, what are you good at? Like, what are you an expert in? We don't want people selling coaching programs and courses and everything that aren't going to get results for people, because that's not fun for you. That's not fun for the people that you sell. We want to make sure that you pick something that you're passionate about, that, you pick an ideal client that you're passionate about working with. Who's the person that's going to get you up, at 4 a.m. if you need to get the work done, to make sure that, this person gets a transformation, and we see a lot of people kind of skip all that
Oh,
and go straight into building, right? And that's one of the biggest issues, is that if you skip all that, you go into building, you might spend a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months building something, but you haven't nailed down everything from that planning phase. So you're kind of just then throwing something at the wall and seeing if it sticks. And that's never a good business plan whatsoever, right? So we spend a lot of time on figuring out your ideal client, getting your messaging really, really clear, what's going to get people to react, to actually be interested in what it is that you're selling and ultimately buy, right? Then you get started with the building.
yeah, that makes huge sense. And it's probably easy to see how people do skip it, because you've got that exciting idea. I can do this. I'm going to produce this amazing course, and then, hey, maybe it's not what people wanted, as you say.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think, one of the things that I've been focused on for years and years and years is clarifying people's messages, right?
Mm,
And,
yeah, thank you.
sometimes we think like, hey, I've got this ideal client. I know how to speak to them, right?
Mm.
I know exactly what to say. Let's go ahead and start building. And so many times we'll take a look at a page, we'll take a look at an ebook, we'll take a look at some copy or some social media posts, and we'll the messaging is just way, way off. A lot of times we're using this inside language that your ideal client won't even know what you're trying to say. We're vague. We say all these things that don't make sense, that it causes an issue when it comes to the actual time to sell, when it comes time to actually try to get eyeballs on your offers and on your content. And that's something that we focus on a lot too, is just really, really nailing down the messaging. What is the messaging that you can use in all of your content on your pages and all that, that's actually going to attract that ideal client that you really want to work with?
Now that makes huge sense. And we've all looked at posts, haven't we, and thought, I really don't understand what this is about. And it's okay if it's an inside family post and an inside joke, but if you're, or reference, but yeah, when we're messaging or putting something out on social, the whole world's so important, as you say. And sometimes we have to look at things with fresh eyes, don't we? What would that
Mhm.
stranger think? Would they understand? And I hear that in copywriting, you should write so you're writing for a 6-year-old, which is not patronizing, but it's saying be clear, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I hate saying it too. Like, you got to dumb things down, and it's not dumbing it down because you think that people are stupid. It's that you got to say it in such a way that they aren't spending a lot of mental calories trying to understand how you can help them, because that's all people are doing, right? People buy things to solve problems. So when they read your stuff, when they see your stuff, they need to instantly know what's in it for them. That's all that matters, right? They need to know how you can help them
Yeah.
and what to do to get there, right? So that's what's so critical in clarifying your message and dumbing things down. It's not about writing it to stupid people. That's not the goal at all. It's to
Or
help
young
them
people.
understand how you can help them in 3 5 seconds, because our attention span is, we're goldfish these days. It's you have an attention span of 3 seconds.
If
That's
we're
how much
lucky.
time you have to help them understand how you can help them.
Yeah,
And
it's not
that's why
even,
messaging is so important.
sorry, it's not even what so-called elevator pitch these days, is it? Because there's less time than the elevator takes to go up,
Yeah, yeah.
as they used to say. Another thing that I noticed recently, you click on an advert, sometimes just bored and you do it, and I've noticed pages and pages, and I'm thinking, just give me the point. So is there? I'm sure the answer is no, but what is the point of having a really, really long scroll advert when the customer is already convinced?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the there's no such thing. We say this all the time. There's no such thing as copy that's too long. It's just copy that's too boring, right?
Ah,
So
okay.
a lot of times that when, as as the price of whatever it is that you're selling goes up, then the longer and the more information it's going to take to get someone to take that next step. Right. And a lot of times when you get to the point where you're creating sales pages, instead of just driving people to book a call, instead of having those one-on-one conversations, which I think everyone needs to start with, you're going to start creating sales pages and funnels that have a lot more information to take them to want to purchase whatever it is that you're selling, right? Or, to leverage it to pre-qualify people before you talk to them. Like when you're first getting started, I would think that you want to talk to everyone that you're bringing in
Mm,
because number one, you get to cut your teeth on having these conversations, sales conversations, but you also get to understand who you're attracting, right? And you get to understand the language that they're using, the language that you should be using on all of your marketing collateral. And then as you continue to grow, we can start putting into pieces that pre-qualify them. So you're only talking to people that are really interested in what you have to offer. And then we can start putting in these pieces like longer sales pages and things like that, that potentially starts automating some of the process. Yeah. So there is a place for long copy, but you need to be a good copywriter or leverage AI in such a way that's going to help you write really engaging copy that gets people to want to continue to read. Yeah.
I think that must be the point there for me is the potential consumer of that ad. It wasn't for me, or it was just too boring. So
Yep.
yeah, and maybe I was the wrong person to be fair to that.
And that's
That
it. I mean, that sales page did its job then,
got
well,
rid of me.
unless it was boring, right? If you found out that it wasn't for you and you bounced off, then that sales page potentially did its job, right? You weren't the
Yeah,
ideal client for it, or
yeah.
it's just really bad copy.
Yeah. I do remember thinking I want this, and then I can't be bothered. So it was probably a mixture of the two. But that goes to USPs, because another page I saw, another thing that stuck in my memory was something that was very humorous, and it had that long copy, but it said, if you want to cut to the boring, but go past this and go straight to the point, click this. And it was really funny. And I thought, yeah, that's my sense of humor. Is humor creeping into stuff in the States? Because we've got quite a lot of funny copy over here. I mean, funny, haha, not funny, weird. On the
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it comes down to the messaging that's going to attract your ideal client.
Mm,
Like if the people that you want to work with have a specific sense of humor, or a type of humor, or the niche that you're trying to get into uses language that's funny, maybe curse words, things like that. The language that you put out there is going to attract those certain types of people, right? Like if
yeah,
if you see something funny on a page and you're like, I get that. That's funny. This is the kind of person I want to work with. The next guy might read it and be like, this isn't a funny situation. I want to find someone else, right? Like this is a real serious situation, whatever it could be.
mm,
And it all comes down to figuring out who you're talking to and the kind
mm.
of message that you want to put out. Because the messaging that you put out is going to attract a certain person, for better or worse. And then we have to
That's,
tweak that messaging to figure out who we are attracting.
and I think it speaks to authenticity, doesn't it? Because, and going back to AI being able to be spotted if it's not used correctly, but I think they're fewer now, but the inauthentic really jumps out, doesn't it? And people walk away from that. So should people be confident to be themselves, mistakes and all, or
Yeah,
do they?
yeah, absolutely. Because those mistakes, that experience that you have is what's made you become the valuable person that you are, right? And I've heard people say like your mess becomes your message. I mean, the reality of the things and the experiences that you've had that probably are shaping what you're offering are just as important as what you're offering. You know what I mean? Because that's what's giving you the experience to actually then teach people and help other people.
And also people know they're speaking to a real person with real experience, and
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
not just a wall of a web page, let's say, with nobody there. Time. I want to ask you about tips for juggling tasks, because you are a one busy person, Jim, and yet you're always there, always delivering, even when people ask you extra questions at the end of a session on Digital Mentors. I say that, audience, because I asked Jim an extra question last night, and bless him, he stayed on for about 20 minutes.
Yeah. So as an as someone that's starting out, as someone that's an entrepreneur, I mean, we're basically a startup. We shifted our audience, we shifted our messaging, and we've got a ton on our plates. Not only on the marketing side, but on the delivery side of what we're selling as well. And what's so critical and what I've learned over and over and over again is to always focus on the money-making activities, right? We don't want to do busy work just for the sake of feeling like we're
Mm.
busy, right? Specifically as an entrepreneur or someone that may be just doing this as a side hustle, you're limited with the time that you have, right? So, for example, going back to what we were talking about before, if you're getting started and you have limited time, I would much rather you be focused on creating content that's going to engage an ideal client and
Mm.
getting booked calls than I would you spending time creating a beautiful landing page, right?
Right.
Because limited time, which
Mm.
one of those is the money making activity, right? Now, for us, the money making activities are putting out great content, hosting our workshops over and over. And then we have our side of the team that is focused on the delivery, right? So we actually deliver the goods that we promise, right? So you guys, anyone that becomes a member of Digital Mentors, our incubator program is amazing. You get direct access to us. We're here to answer questions. We have office hours every single week. That's part of the mentorship side that we, so deeply believe in. Um, so I think that for people that are getting started that might feel overwhelmed, I have a checklist that's, like 4 pages long, right? But I focus on getting the money making activities done first, and then I can go back in and kind of start checking things off as they come up.
Yeah, that makes absolutely huge sense indeed. So in terms of what's now I'm going to rephrase this. What's the most valuable lesson that you've learned in your career? Now I know at the beginning you saw about the colleague being asleep, but that aside, is there any one moment when you thought, yes, wow, or is it something there's always that lesson there?
Yeah, I think that for me, the what I have learned is that resilience is something that you are going to have to embrace as an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
A lot of times we see all these entrepreneurs out there, we see all this success, all these people that are having great success, and they I wouldn't say flaunt it, but that's part of what they put out there, right? They put out this lifestyle, this is what they do. And if they're authentic, that's amazing that they've gotten that success, but they don't really talk about the 10 years that it took to get there, right? And I hate seeing people feel like they have to compare themselves to people that have been in the game for 5, 10 years that have already reached this level of success, thinking that they're doing something wrong. You're just doing what's part of the game, right? I mean, we all sucked when we started. We all sucked when we tried to figure this out. And I think for me, that just understanding that there's just going to be ups and downs when you're an entrepreneur. There's things that are going to come up, things that you didn't expect, things that are going to beat you down. And it's so cliche. It's the old Rocky,
Yeah.
speech, life is going to beat you down, and it's how you get back up. It's how you deal with those expectations and you deal with everything that's coming up against you. And mentioning the word expectations, that's probably one of the more important things that I've realized as well is your expectations are almost never going to be exactly what you thought they
Mm.
were, right? So like be careful with setting your expectations for what your business is going to look like because if you do that, and this is something that I work on all the time because we pivot a lot. Like we have to shift our expectations on what things are going to look like all the time for better or worse. And if you go in with these solid expectations of what it's going to look like, if it misses the mark, even by a little bit, you consider
Mm.
yourself a failure. You consider it because it didn't meet your exact expectations. You consider that you failed somewhere, right? You thought that you were like, hey man, I thought it was going to look like this. I did something wrong. Whereas if you just go in without those full expectations in stone and you just kind of roll with some of the punches and you keep moving forward, you're going to be much happier with where you're at in the long run because you don't just keep beating yourself up that it doesn't look exactly like it was supposed to in your mind.
Awesome. Thank you so much. There's so many words of wisdom there, guys. You need to be taking notes as you listen to this or hit the replay, wind back a bit. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Now, as we come towards the end, I want to ask you a few off the cuff questions. So we've got this radio program here in the UK and it's called Desert Island Disc. So unashamedly adapted something from there. So imagine you're on a desert island, family are with you, all that. So you can only take now, with those guitars behind you, you can take one piece of music. What would it be?
Oh my goodness, one piece of music.
Can't be yours,
Um,
or maybe it can.
so one piece of music. So this is going to be the first thing that popped into my mind was there's a guy, I don't even know if he was big in Britain, but there's a guy by the name of Harry Chapin, and he was old school folk. My parents grew up listening to him, so I got into him, but he's one of the most amazing storyteller musicians of all time. His songs are like 8, 9 minutes long, but they tell a story and they're all amazing. And it's someone that I got into. And I think that bringing something to an island like that can tell a story would be probably my first bet. My daughter loves her. I used to sing her these songs going to like when it was putting her down because they were, super long and they would tell a story. So I'd probably bring something like that.
Can you say the name again? Because I didn't quite
Yeah,
catch.
his name's Harry Chapin. He passed away a long time ago. But
Okay,
his records are still available. Yeah.
we're going to put his name in the show notes. So next question. You've got Shakespeare. Somebody's tried to throw Shakespeare out. You've got Shakespeare and you've got the faith book of your choice. So what other book would you take?
Oh man. I know that I'm supposed to say like a business book of some kind.
No, not at all.
Right. But I am a huge Stephen King fan. If you
Oh,
saw
okay.
my other wall over here, it's basically every book that he's ever written. I have my own little shrine for him, so I would probably bring something there to enjoy. Although my daughter would not be able to read that.
No,
So
no, too scary.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And you can have one luxury, but not a boat, because someone tried to tell me a boat before, which was
That's a
clever.
great answer. That's a great
Yes.
answer.
So no boats.
God, one luxury. That's a really great question. I would probably bring a guitar. Yeah,
Okay,
I'd probably
that
bring a guitar. Oh,
that
is
makes
that like not luxurious enough? Like if I want something like super luxurious, huh?
no, that's fine because
That's fine.
someone chose a toothbrush once, so I think a
That would
guitar.
be a good one.
Yes.
That'd be a good one. But I feel like if everyone on the island is just letting that go, then
Yeah,
what's the
I
point?
think go with the guitar. Now, this is my experimental question because you're the first person I'm asking this. So
Ooh,
let's see how
guinea
it
pig. I
goes.
dig it. Let's do
A
it.
guinea pig, yes. So if you can think of one question I didn't ask you that you would like to have been asked, I'm going to ask my next guest that question.
Do I get to know who your next guest is?
I don't know myself yet.
Oh, cool. Okay. Um, I I always like to ask the question of what it's not like what was the biggest failure, but what do you think was the biggest thing that you came up against that was unexpected that you learned the most from? Right?
Oh,
Like what was the most specifically for entrepreneurs? Because again, I think that we miss all of the dirt, the grunginess that comes into building something on your own. That a lot of those stories, a lot of those instances that people came up against and still persevered through is gold. Like I would love to hear, people's the thing that happened to them that was like, this is it. Like I can either give up or I'm going to push forward. And what made you push forward? Like what was the thing that you thought of that made you push through that thing that happened?
awesome. Thank you. Well, the next guest will thank you for that one. So I'll let you know.
We'll see. We'll find out. Yeah.
Jim, thank you so much indeed for being with us today. And as I said, everything will be in the show notes below. And have a look at Digital Mentors if you're not already in the community and the team. Jim, before we go, put you on the well, I won't be putting you on the spot. In one or two sentences, what is Digital Mentors for our entrepreneurs, solopreneurs to understand?
Yeah, sure. Digital Mentors helps anyone transform their expertise into impact, income, and legacy. That's kind of our tagline, right? We always want people to be able to transform their knowledge and their expertise into something that can help change lives. And
That's
we're just along for the journey.
awesome. Thank you very much. Again, thanks ever such a lot. Really appreciate it and see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks for asking.